there's a big thing about equality, and it has to be equal. And men and women are equal. Men and women are the same. And in relationships, it's way more about equity than it is equality. And, for women, and I know, men are working full time, women are working full time. So everything has to be equal and divided equally. But we still have different roles. And there's still something that women bring to the table that men don't as much, regardless of who's working and who's making more money. And I think if we just look at it as is it equitable in our relationships? Like, my husband is very, very plain, very clear in our relationship that he is the man and I am the woman. And he has his role, I have my role. But I think what is, like you said, being stolen is people want everything to be exactly even. And what I always tell women, you're in your masculine energy. If you're at the office, you have to be in your masculine energy because you're producing, you're meeting deadlines, you're being productive. But when you come home, and if you want to be in a romantic relationship where your husband is attracted to you, you have to go into your feminine side. You have to become the girl, because no masculine man is going to be attracted to another masculine man. That energy. And so if you're calling the shots and controlling and trying to wear the pants, it's not going to be attracted to him. So you can leave the masculine energy at the office. We all have both kinds of energy. But when you get home, turn back into the girl. My husband, he has traveled, oh my gosh, our whole marriage. But for 10 years, he traveled 49 weekends out of the year for 10 years. So I was at home raising kids, and they were becoming teenagers. And, I was in my role. He was doing what he does best, and I was doing what I did best. But being at home raising the kids when he was off the premises, that put me in the masculine role. I'm the protector, provider, calling the shots, doing the discipline, all that stuff. So when he would come home, we would argue. The first day, every single time, the first day he'd walk in, I'd be bucking him because I was in my masculine. And he's coming home as the masculine. And we would buck. And it wasn't until I learned, I can go back into being the girl, because now the man is home. The protector, provider is home. And now I can go back into this, my soft side, my responsive side, my receptive side, my girl side, my feminine side. And women ask me all the time, they say, well, how do I switch? How do I switch over?
Exactly.
Because it's hard. My daughter, my youngest daughter, she's in a very stressful job. And then now she's married. They've been married for almost a year. And she said, Mom, and they've been taught everything. They're in great marriages, all my kids. But she said, it's really hard. And she has a lot of masculine energy, my youngest. And she said, it is hard switching back into being female. I try to get home from work. And I said, well, what do you do? How do you do it? And she said, well, I definitely have to intentionalize it because I'm used to calling the shots. I come home and I've got to, let him do that. And what I've always taught women is, when you come home, do whatever makes you feel feminine. Get that oxytocin, that bonding hormone, release. And for a woman, taking a hot bath, lighting some candles, playing some music, dancing. I mean, going for a walk, like do something that is pampering to yourself. Have a glass of wine, whatever it takes to, put on something, take a shower, put on something feminine that makes you feel girly, and it could even be workout clothes, whatever makes you feel comfortable and brings out that softness in you. And then you see the difference between you and your husband. And when I talk about that, and even online, more men have commented saying, yes, I'm not attracted to masculine. I'm attracted to the feminine. They crave our femininity. They crave it from us. And we offer that. We offer that peace, our homes to be a place of peace for men when they come home. And I hear women say all the time, well, my husband doesn't even want to come home sometimes. So he'll go to the bar, have a few drinks with the boys, or some men will sit in their cars. I've heard men say, I will sit in my car for an hour before I walk in to get ready. And
I've done that.
Women, and so I asked the women, well, are you creating a peaceful environment? I mean, it's like he's been at war all day. He doesn't want to come home and have to fight another war. He wants to come home and be able to relax and be at peace. Are you offering that to him?
So good. And probably it's triggering some people. That's fine. But we want to be triggered because there's so many gifts in our triggers, right? The reason that I believe we get triggered is because it goes against a bias or a belief or a conditioning that we've learned. But at the crux of this conversation, the very beginning of our podcast, it's like, how do we go back to following the laws of nature? That's really my intention with this podcast, right? Because there is so much wisdom in nature, Danielle. There's so much wisdom. And what you're talking about is this balancing. Right? In the East, they have the yin yang, where in the center of the opposites, there is balance. That's why it's the balance of opposites.
Yes.
But in order for us to achieve balance, there's also the man's role too. I can say personally, like I am a charger. I get things done. We just built a podcast studio, like managing contractors. These things take a lot of my masculine energy. So when I come home, I have been so in completion mode that by the time I get back to the house, now I'm fortunate enough to have my studio on my land so I can walk home. I don't have to sit in traffic to go home. But for people that on top of that have to sit in traffic and be in this completion mode, what can a man do to prepare his nervous system and his regulation to meet his woman when he comes home?
So, and I learned this from Alison Armstrong, and I know you know who that is.
I love her. We've had her on twice. She's absolutely phenomenal.
She
Shout out to Alison.
Yes.
Were you a frog farmer in your past? Were you a frog farmer?
Oh, no, I don't. I think I found her later on in life before I even became a frog farmer.
Got it.
I married very young and found the Lord very young. So I learned so much, through the Bible and through church of how to be a wife and how to be married. But I've learned so much from her and about men and even about women. And I have lots of different mentors, but one thing that she taught me was that when men come home, that they need like at least 30 minutes. And for every man, it's a little bit different to kind of transition from work to home, to get into that frame of mind from, doing to being home and then being available for your wife and your children. And how if they can just get 30 minutes to transition and relax, and however that looks, every man has their own transition ritual. My husband, when he was flying home, I used to think, well, he got to transition on the plane. He's sitting on a plane for 4 hours, doing nothing, watching a movie. And then, I pick him up from the airport and then he has that time. And what I learned was, no, that wasn't transition time. He was still in work mode. So he didn't get to transition until he actually stepped on the premises. And then I noticed that his ritual would be he had to go to the bank, make deposits, and then he would go in the garage and he'd have to wipe down his car. For him, that was therapeutic. For some men, they got to turn on the TV or get a sports update or sit in a jacuzzi maybe. Whatever your ritual is, I knew that he could not be present until he did those things. And then he'd be like, oh, hi. How you doing? Once he did all the stuff he had to do to be able to, now he can be present for me and for our kids. And so I think for men, women need to allow them that time. And more women have said, oh my gosh, that really does work. Instead of throwing the kids at him the minute he walks in the door, like, I've been working all day too, and I'm tired. Like, here, I think we both need our zone out time, but you've got to find a routine, an arrangement that works for you and your family. And because when I posted something about that, oh my gosh, the pushback I got from the women. Well, what about us? What about us? We need to transition. We need time. What about us who work full time and even stay at home moms? And I'm like, yeah, you need time too. But women transition faster than men. And it's all about the way our brains are set up and our hormones and this thing in our brains called the corpus callosum. And I won't get into that. That's all scientific. But it really, women, just like women, when they're having conversations, they can go from topic to topic to topic, switch over back and forth, where men, because they're single folks, are like, whoa, wait. We were just, wait, where'd you go? Like, you're talking about something else? I'm still back at this other subject you were talking about.
Yes.
It switches fast. So I just tell the women, take a deep breath. You'll get your zone out time too. And men were writing they were posting, I need my 30 minutes. And then I tell my wife, okay, I'll take it from here. Go do whatever you need to get your zone out time. And then we'll come back together. I'll take the kids or I'll start dinner or whatever. And just find your arrangement, whatever works for you and your wife.
Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Click the link if you want to watch the full episode, and I will see you in the next video.